News Talk 94.5 WPTI, 96.7 FM WTOB. You're listening to the Wealth Guardian Show with Doug, Brice, and Garrett. We are helping you retire the job, keep the paycheck. And this morning, we were talking about 6 things that retirees fail to consider as they approach their retirement. Good morning, Brice. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Garrett. How are you?
I'm doing okay.
Very good. You know, I attended the Panthers game.
All right.
Last weekend. First time in probably 8 years or so that I attended.
Wow.
Last time was a Broncos-Panthers game. And they shut out.
Yeah, they did.
Their first shutout since 2020 against Detroit Lions, which was 20-0.
Okay.
And I'm going to throw this out there. So 100% of the time in the last so many years that the Wealth Guardians have been represented at Panther Stadium, the Panthers have shut out their opponent. If any diehard Panther fans out there are listening and think that their ticket would be better given to somebody who seemingly has this kind of effect on the team, then I would be a happy taker of that ticket just to explore the avenue. You know,
Yeah.
We don't want some theory like this to go untested, right?
Yeah, we'll take a shutout.
Yeah, that's great. I had a good time. Beautiful weather. Of course, the Broncos have outscored their opponents now by a total of 4 points, but are somehow 1-2.
Yeah.
Lost last-second field goals in the 2 last games.
Yeah.
Anyway, how are you doing?
Doing okay, Brice. Doing okay. Had a little bit of a golf trip myself over the weekend.
Oh, did you?
Good. Yeah. I was up kind of in the Banner Elk area. Okay. So yeah.
Play well? Play as good as the Panthers?
No, not as good as the Panthers. First round was rough. Second round was better. So we'll do this. Yeah.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you everybody out there for joining us. We're of course, Garrett and I are sports fans, so we get a little sidetracked here sometimes when it's sports season. But thank you everybody for joining us. We're going to get to the meat and potatoes of the show here. 6 things that retirees fail to consider when planning for retirement. Let's, of course, start off by doing our Wealth Guardian Service Salute. Every weekend, we want to take a few seconds at the start of each show and just acknowledge and extend our appreciation to all our first responders and men and women in uniform out there, keeping the stars and stripes safe, and of course, the families as well. It is oftentimes, too often, a thankless job, and you go underappreciated. So we just want to take a moment and say thank you to you from the bottom of our hearts here at the Wealth Guardians. All right. And Garrett, you prepared the question for the Better Get to Know Your Wealth Guardians Advisor.
Yeah, Brice. So I was doing some thinking about this, and if you weren't a financial planner and you were to pick up a skill in the trades, what trade would you be most interested in learning? And I'll go first. For me, I've always been interested in welding. I got a little bit of exposure to that in engineering school. I was a civil engineer, and then my kind of focus was in steel design. Mm-hmm. So we did kind of some, I wouldn't even call it coursework on welding, but just kind of in the shop and stuff, just kind of learning basic tack welds and that sort of thing. And I thought it was just an incredibly interesting trade. So if I were to kind of switch careers and go into the trades, I'd definitely be interested in welding. How about yourself?
If I can't pick music, because that's not really a trade, if I can't play guitar, then I took drafting for all 4 years.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Love it. So either drafting or actual construction, putting things together.
Sure.
I do that on a small scale, but I like doing it on a large scale. So that's what I grew up with my grandfather, and he was a carpenter.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Working by his side. There, but good question.
Very good stuff.
Well, let's go ahead and get started on this. 6 things retirees fail to consider. Garrett, we onboard about 50 households a year here at the Wealth Guardians, don't want to. And they come into us, they're preparing for retirement, and we get to understand what their finances look like, what their assets are that they've accumulated. Are they in IRA accounts, 401k? Are they in Roth accounts, non-qualified accounts? What their expenses are.
Sure.
How much are they spending? How much do they want to spend in retirement? And of course, what kind of income do they have now before they retire? And what kind of income will they have in retirement? Is there pension income? Is there passive income like their landlords? So Social Security, of course, those kind of things.
Yep.
And a lot of times they fail to think of something, which is good. That's why they come to a holistic financial planner, right? Because they understand that they are probably not thinking of something. So you and I do this very frequently. And I thought, let's just jot down some of the things that we see people overlooking when trying to do their own planning, their retirement planning. So this is just a list that we put together. And the first one that we've got, what's the first one on the list there, Garrett?
First one we come to is inflation. And I would say that's a huge one, Brice, in that, say, it's about 50-50 where, some people, when we first talk to them, they really don't have a good feeling for what they're spending at all. More than often, these are folks where one or both of them are still working and they've got, well-paying jobs, and it's just kind of not something where they've not really had to pinch pennies for quite a while, perhaps when they were younger, but it's been several decades. But then you get the other side of the fence there where people are really, really good budgeters. They have really good, kind of home-baked spreadsheets where they track, all their expenses.
Right.
And they have a really good idea of what their historical spending is.
Yes.
And they say, they'll say, I think I'm going to need somewhere about, $7,000 a month in retirement in order to kind of make ends meet and keep up our standard of living that we've come to enjoy.
Be able to spend $7,000.
Yeah. Okay. That's $7,000 of today's money.
Yes.
Right. That doesn't necessarily mean that $7,000 is going to go as far 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. I don't know about you, Brice, but I've never had a client tell me that they only want to be retired for 5 years.
I have not had that either.
Yeah, that never happens. So if you're spending $7,000 of today's money in order to make ends meet and live the lifestyle that you want, and you want to be retired for 20, 25, possibly even 30 years, okay, now we have to consider inflation. It has to be part of the model. And okay, we have to understand how those expenses eat into your nest egg over time, or even after factoring in inflation, are we still in an okay position?
Right.
And that's where we really start to kind of turn the crank for folks, and they really have to start to have a better understanding. I've never had a person come to me with a spreadsheet that baked in inflation.
I don't think I have either. I come across people who come in with their computer and they've got those spreadsheets like you're saying, and they factored in something perhaps, but they don't know what the 100-year average of inflation,
correct,
which by the way is 3.27%, I believe.
It is.
So they don't consider that, and you're absolutely right. Somebody is spending $7,000 today. You fast forward 20, 25 years, it's somewhere around $14,000.
Yeah.
At that point. So people look at it and say, "Oh gosh, I didn't realize I'd be spending that much money 25 years from now." Yeah, well, that's your $7,000 today. So we have to factor that in. Then people, almost 99% of the time, did not think to factor that in, or in that very rare chance where they did, they were using wrong numbers to factor in.
Correct. Yep.
If you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Wealth Guardian Show with Doug Ray, and in the studio this morning is Brice Payne and Garrett Ray, talking to you about the 6 things retirees fail to consider when planning for retirement. So if you're out there and you're planning to retire at some point in the not so distant future, you might want to pay attention to this list, because there's probably some things in here that you as well thought, "Oh, I didn't think of that. I'm wanting to retire in the next couple of years." And what Garrett and Brice just shared with me, they're spot on. I did not think of that. So keep listening. We appreciate you being here with us. And Garrett, what's number 2 that we've got on the list here?
Yeah, when to file for Social Security. And, oftentimes we are talking to a couple that's going through our process, and, things can get somewhat complicated when it comes to Social Security. Typically they both have their own individual working histories and their own individual benefits that are standalone. But the way that we like to look at it is that we view the household as a team. And so if he's got his standalone benefit and she has her standalone benefit, what is the best mathematical combination of when does he file, when does she file, if our goal was to maximize our cumulative lifetime benefits underneath the program? Now, of course, we got to factor in some life expectancy there. Yeah. Right. When are we expecting him to pass away? When are we expecting her to pass away?
The age differences between them factors in heavily.
Exactly. Right. If
1 year apart, not as big a deal as a couple that is maybe 9 or 10 years apart.
Yep. And we see both, fairly often. And so, based on their individual work histories and benefits, then you can get some different strategies that, make sense on paper. There's the personal side to things. I think most people know that generally, the longer that you wait, your benefit grows. It grows to the tune of about 8% per year after the age of 62, all the way up until 70. But what is the right time for you? And we've got the software to basically look at both of those benefits, the age difference factor that you had mentioned, Brice, and then take the couple's personal goals and kind of tailor a filing strategy for them if they didn't have a solid strategy. You know, occasionally we'll talk to a couple that's just dead set on filing a certain way, you know, and that's fine. The way that we view it is that we here at the Wealth Guardians are not going to tell you how to file or when to file. That's a personal decision between you two. Our role is to best educate you around the numbers so you can make an informed decision.
It is a numbers game from our vantage point, and we just want you to be making the decision based on understanding those numbers, not taking a wild stab at it because of what your neighbor did or something else. A lot of people will say to us, I'm not confident Social Security will be there in a few years, so I just want to start getting my hands on it as soon as possible.
Exactly.
Understand that concept, but we always discourage people from making decisions based on fear and greed when it comes to their finances. So let's base it on real numbers instead, and we can present you with those numbers.
100%.
Yeah. Well, okay, so that's 2. We didn't get to 3. I want to get to 3 each one, but we got to take a break here. And Garrett, you did the trivia question this week.
I do, Brice. We got a trivia question for you. And my question for you is, which continent has landmass in all 4 hemispheres of the Earth?
Which continent?
Which continent? The northern, the southern, the eastern, and the western hemisphere.
Okay.
One continent has landmass on all 4. Is it A, Asia, B, South America, or C, Africa?
Okay. I think I know the answer to that. You didn't throw Europe in there. Okay.
I did not.
All right. So, all right, well, that's the trivia question here. Stick around for the answer to that. See if Garrett stumped me or stumped you guys out there on the other side of this quick break. This is Brice Payne. With me is Garrett Ray. The show's The Wealth Guardians, helping you retire the job and keep the paycheck. And this is News Talk 94.5 WPTI. And this is 96.7 FM WTOB. News Talk 94.5 WPTI. 96.7 FM WTOB. Welcome back to the Wealth Guardian Show, where we help you retire the job and keep the paycheck. I'm Brice Payne in the Wealth Guardian studio this morning, along with Garrett Ray. And in this segment, we're going to continue our discussion on 6 things retirees fail to consider when preparing for retirement. Now, we got to the first 2 in the first segment. We're going to try to get to all 4 remaining ones in the second segment here. So we got to speed things along. But before we answer the trivia question that Garrett left me and you all hanging with, I've got to ask you this. Are you planning to retire? Okay. Second question. Have you met with a retirement income certified professional who is also a fiduciary? If you have, great. Power to you. If you have not, here it is. I want to officially invite you to take us up on a complimentary review of your current situation. So as certified retirement planning specialists, what we're going to do is we're going to put together a customized written plan with strategies for portfolio allocation, income distribution, Social Security filing, tax efficiency, and even the additional benefit of often reducing both the risk and the fees of your current plan. So if you've put aside at least $400,000 and you want to take us up on this no cost, no obligation review, give us a call, 336-391-3409, or visit us at thewealthguardians.com. That's thewealthguardians.com to learn more. Let us show you in black and white how to retire the job and keep the paycheck. All right, now let's go ahead and get back to that trivia question. Garrett, run it by me one more time, if you will.
All right, so the question, Brice, is what continent has land mass in all 4 hemispheres on Earth? That's the northern, the southern, the eastern, and the western hemisphere. Is it A, Asia, B, South America, or C, Africa?
Well, I have a pretty good idea of where the southern and northern hemispheres split from each other. And that's not too difficult to grasp that concept. Where the East and the West technically meet, I'm not so sure on that one, actually. Pretty sure it's not South America. So I'm going to go with Asia.
That would be incorrect. It is Africa.
Is that right? Africa?
It is. It is. Yeah, because Eastern and Western split at Greenwich, England. Greenwich Mean Time. Have you ever heard that? Yeah, Greenwich.
What's on the opposite side of the Greenwich then?
Well, that's Eastern and Western, so it depends on which side you're on.
No, I know. If the Greenwich is in one side of the globe, what's directly across from it on the other side of it?
Well, that I could not tell you.
Okay, yeah, because I'm trying to get a visual. I don't know where Greenwich is.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I was trying to see what's on the other half of it. All right, well, very good. I got that wrong, of course. So that's what you get when you give me the trivia question as opposed to giving that to Garrett or Doug. All right, let's go ahead and get on with our list here. 6 things retirees fail to consider. In the first segment, we talked about inflation and when to file for Social Security. Where we're starting off now in the second segment is what their expenses are. This is number 3.
Yep.
What their expenses are. So a retiree fails to consider what their expenses are. Now, you touched on this in the first one, Garrett, when we talked about inflation.
Yep.
But this is probably one of the most common ones out of our list here. People don't know. I've said this so many times, but here it is again. People like to know what they earn. They like to have an idea of how much money they're making when they work. Okay, great. People like to know how much they've got saved. They keep an eye on that to some degree or another. So it's not very often that we say, how much do you have when somebody has no idea? People generally have an idea of how much they've accumulated when they're approaching retirement. What they don't know is how much do they spend? And there's a reason for that. You can dip into the psychology of the human brain. And the other two things, how much we've accumulated and how much we make, those are kind of positive things. Those are affirmations for us. This is what my time is worth, and this is how well I've done at saving. Great. What we don't like to know about ourselves is how fast, quickly are we spending that money? We don't face that reality. So people often come to us when looking like deer caught in the headlight. How much do we spend? God, I have no idea. And I will have people throw out a number. I think it's $3,000. And when we actually say, you and I are not going to take, I think for an answer, it's like, well, here's the cheat sheet. Here's a spreadsheet that we can work with. Let's figure out how much we're actually spending. And it's not uncommon at all that somebody will get off by double figures.
Oh, absolutely.
You think they're spending $3,000 a month. Boom. After we add everything up, surprise, $6,000.
Yeah, you're spending closer to 6. Yeah.
Yes. So that's not uncommon. And that is one of the most important things, of course. Somebody comes to us, they come to the Wealth Guardians. They're looking for financial advice on can they retire next year and that kind of thing. We have to understand it's all math. We have to understand how much they have. We have to understand what kind of income they're going to have in retirement. And we have to know how much they're spending. Somebody who spends $3,000 a month and who has saved $1 million and wants to retire next year, they can probably do that. Somebody who spends $6,000 a month and they want to retire next year with $1 million, little more iffy there. Depends on what kind of Social Security, other forms of income they have. So that is an absolute essential figure to understand in the equation. And that's probably one of the more common ones that somebody, when they come and sit down with the Wealth Guardian, so they don't know off the top of their head.
Yeah, and it's essential because I've had, again, almost next to no one come to me and say, hey, I want to retire and I want to really penny pinch and be super frugal in my retirement and I want to live off of rice and beans, as Dave Ramsey says. No one says that to me. They say, we don't want to live lavishly, but we want to keep the lifestyle that we've currently maintaining. Well, let's talk about what degrees of lavishness that may or may not be. So, I mean, so then
I think 100% of the people that I've sat down with say, oh, we're not big spenders. And the people who spend $3,000 a month say that, and the people who spend $10,000 a month say, we're not big spenders.
We're not big spenders.
Live lavishly. Well, listen, to the person who's spending $3,000 a month, your $10,000 a month is pretty lavish.
Pretty lavish, yep.
Yeah. So, so what their expenses are, another one that people often fail to consider when planning for retirement. If you are just tuning in, you're listening to the Wealth Guardian Show. And in this second segment, we're continuing our conversation on 6 things retirees fail to consider. What I do want you to consider out there is that every once in a while, every couple of months, the Wealth Guardians put on a free seminar for the public about retirement planning. And we just did it this last Thursday, and we're doing it again on Tuesday, the 30th at 6:30 p.m. at the Broyhill Annex in Clemens. And if you would like to attend, it's the subject is your retirement, a reality check, kind of these things that you're failing to consider when planning for retirement. Let's dip into the realm of reality here and make sure that all the things that we're considering are really being fully considered, so that when you decide I'm going to retire next year, that really makes sense and that you can do that. So your retirement, a reality check. It's a seminar we're putting on Tuesday the 30th at 6:30 p.m. There's no cost or obligation, like all of our seminars, to attend, but you do have to register. The seating is limited, so here's how you register. Give us a call, 336-391-3409. That number again is 336-391-3409. You can also visit us at thewealthguardians.com/the events tab. And we will go ahead and put you down, and love to see you there this upcoming Tuesday. 6:30 p.m. in Clemens at the Broyhill Annex, your retirement, a reality check. If you'd like to attend, if you're planning on retiring before too long and you want to make sure that you've got all your ducks in a row, this would be the seminar that you'd want to attend. All right, let's go ahead and get to number 4 here. Garrett, which one do we have for number 4?
Future healthcare costs. And this is one that people really don't consider for a multitude of reasons. Your average person who's considering retirement they might start thinking about it, seriously in their mid 50s, late 50s, but most of the folks we're talking to are here in our early to mid 60s. And for the majority of their life, they've lived healthy lives, productive lives, not major health scares by and large. Right. And people kind of have this idea of what retirement's going to look like. When they first retire, it's going to be what we call the go-go years. Everybody has a bucket list of places they want to see, people they want to talk to. I'm going to catch up with my friend I haven't talked to in 20 years. We're going to take this trip to Italy, all that good stuff. And then as they start to slow down, most people believe that they're going to be in a lower tax bracket. They're spending less. Well, maybe not, because when we start to slow down, we're likely in our mid 70s, possibly getting closer to our 80s. And that's when, for most people, we tend to start having health issues start to pop up to one degree or another. And the question becomes, do we have money set aside for future healthcare expenses? If we don't, then that general nest egg, that general bucket of money, whether that's CDs or cash at the bank or investments at large, becomes kind of that reserve, if you will. Yes, Medicare is going to cover some things, but there's a lot of things that it may or may not cover to fully, or you may want to have some additional treatments, that sort of things, additional care centers, skilled nursing, if we have to consider any of those. Likely
in-home care.
In-home care, yep, likely not covered or covered to any significant degree. And so that's something that a lot of people just at that stage of life haven't really put a ton of emphasis of planning on. And that's where we can really come in and kind of explore different options with folks. So,
in adding to that, there are certain things that we have to make assumptions about when we are planning for retirement. For example, what is the average rate of return going to be on your portfolio?
Sure.
We don't know what that's going to be, so we have to take an educated guess at it. What is the average rate of inflation going to be?
Yep.
Know that. We could be off by these things. What is the COLA going to be on Social Security? We could be off by those by even a percentage point. And that's probably not going to blow up a retirement plan.
No.
But what could blow up a retirement plan is one of the members of a household needing to spend $8,000 a month on a private room in a skilled nursing facility for a significant period of time. That money was meant for both of you, and it is going to be all drained out for one person, and that is what is going to blow up a retirement plan. So there are ways to prepare for that in a long-term care insurance, of course, but we want to at least consider that and make sure that we at least factoring in that possibility. And you're right, Garrett, people in their early 60s might not have had any real health concerns up to that point. And and so they think, well, if I've gotten by this far in life, I don't need to consider healthcare. And so that's not an unusual concept. Let's get to the other two real quick. IRA to Roth conversions.
Yeah. So, IRA to Roth conversions, lots of times it's not uncommon for us to see a lot of people who have a majority of their assets or their investments in a traditional 401k, traditional IRA. When we poll people who, we come in contact with, if they believe that taxes are likely to go up into the future, the majority of people say, yes, I believe that taxes have to come up to some degree.
And if you believe that.
And if you believe that, then, let's talk about the deal that a traditional IRA or 401k is that you basically defer taxes to pay taxes later. Well, if you believe taxes are likely to go up, during your retirement years, perhaps, then it could make sense to start moving some piece of your traditional IRAs and 401ks into Roths.
Now.
Pay them now. Just go ahead and pay the taxes when it's quote unquote on sale. Yep. If you believe it's going to go up in the future, yes, that stings. You're going to have to bite the bullet and eat the taxes now. But then you get to enjoy that growth tax-free for your retirement years.
You're largely immune to any tax hikes that the government might lay down in the future. Those Roth accounts are shielded. Well, the sixth one that we didn't have time for is your current portfolio allocation and the risk on it. So people, I think, get that one. That doesn't need a lot of explanation. You do have to consider what your potential downside risk is that you're taking on your portfolio. But that's it for this week. Unfortunately, we are out of time as we get to this point every weekend. We hope the rest of your weekend is everything you want it to be, and that your teams win. This is Brice Payne, along with Garrett, the show's The Wealth Guardians, helping you retire the job and keep the paycheck. And I want to remind everybody, sound financial plans do not simply create themselves. This is News Talk 94.5 WPTI. This is 96.7 FM, WTOB.
Hi, it's Garrett Ray with the Wealth Guardians. Thanks so much for listening to the show. Make sure to check out our weekly series, The Vault, on YouTube. Find our channel, The Wealth Guardians, where we talk about all things retirement planning and cover new topics each week, such as Social Security, tax planning in retirement, and our thoughts on investment best practices, and much more. New episodes air Thursdays at 2 p.m. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you can get notifications when we release new episodes. We're here to help you retire the job and keep that paycheck. We'll talk soon.